Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to the StarCityGames.com Season 1 Invitational Weekend. But honestly, that's the old way to introduce this because we're at SCGCon.
SCGCon.
That is where we are.
Where we have one of them shirts.
What's that?
I'm gonna give me one of them shirts.
Yeah, yes. We have so many things going on. I'm used to calling the Season 1 Invitational, and that's where a lot of our focus is going to be here this weekend. But we're going to be covering some vintage, we're going to be covering some no ban list modern, and a whole bunch more. I am your host this weekend, Cedric Phillips, and I'm joined by three of my favorite colleagues, starting number one with Alabama's finest, the man with over 30 SCG Tour top 8s in his first time covering an Invitational, Todd Anderson.
What's up?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I sang some karaoke last night. My voice is a little scratchy.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking. I think everyone saw that video on Twitter.
Yeah,
It's okay, you'll get used to you're not supposed to do anything before the show.
I'm going to get some lemon water.
Okay.
I'll be fine.
Okay, perfect. He's good to go. Matthias, who's also quite good at karaoke, is joining us. How are you?
Doing pretty good this weekend. Also to karaoke. I'm going to go with the, like lemon ginger.
Okay.
But, same plan, just different architecture.
Gotcha. And Ryan, I don't know if you do karaoke. Ryan Overturf, of course, down at the end. What will you be drinking this morning?
I drink a lot of water during the show.
Okay.
After the show, all bets are off.
Ah, good.
We'll figure it out.
Perfect.
Look, this is a G-rated show.
Yeah.
G-rated?
Yeah.
Oh, PG-rated?
I don't know what the rating is.
I don't know.
Does Twitch have
I mean,
these?
it's like pretty safe to go PG.
I always click adult content whenever I stream.
Perfect. I don't know if there's a warning that comes up on the broadcast, but we'll find out as we prepare to talk about a very disturbingly violent format in Standard. All right, so for those of you unaware, there was a Standard Pro Tour last weekend in Richmond, Virginia, and you may have heard about what happened. There was some card whirling chains around that appears to be better than all of the other cards, it appears. Some are talking about a ban. I don't really think that's necessary, but...
Rampaging Frostbite?
That's the one. That is the one I was talking about.
The red 3-drop that you can't beat.
Some sort of red 3-drop that appears to be quite good in the format. So, Goblin Chain Whirler's a thing. Chandra, Rekindling Phoenix, Hasseret, Glorybringer, Abrade. There are a lot of good red cards, Todd.
Yeah. So this mono red deck that splashes for Scrap Heap, Scrounger, and Unlicensed Disintegration has been taking over Standard. Leading up to the Pro Tour, it was one of the best performing decks on Magic Online.
Yep.
Corey Baumeister used it to 8-0 one of the Magic Online Championship Series qualifier events. The deck is just unbelievably good.
I don't really know, Matthias, if there's a way to really, I want to say beat this thing. There's obviously a couple of builds you can go. You can go mono red like White Darby did, who won the tournament, won the Pro Tour.
Yeah, let's not talk about that one though.
Yes. We can talk about the Black Splash, obviously, that players have been employing as well. Ultimately, this feels like the best thing going on by a lot. I know you're not much of a red player, but even you have to admit this is kind of the best thing going on.
Yeah, well, up toward the top of the format, there's this smaller subset of cards that are like very excellent against mono red. Because mono red's gonna have great spells that plays, mopey creatures, things like Jackal Pups. Then you get your like timely reinforcement style cards, and you can take it to them. The issue here with the red deck is that they're built on a card quality where it's like, I was talking about this, it's almost like a red Jund deck. So when you start boarding in these anti-burn cards, then the deck just turns on its heel and it's like, fine, I'll just play Jund against you, my cards are better, and then I'll be like, Chain Whirler, Rekindling Phoenix, Glorybringer. And then you have an embarrassment of cards and they actually overpower your control deck, and that's I think what makes it so hard to answer right now.
Yeah, for me, Ryan, I take a look at this deck, and I think calling it a Jund deck of Standard is a really good way to look at it. There are no bad cards in this deck. I suppose the worst card is what? Soul Scar Mage?
It's definitely Heart of Kieran.
It's hard.
I hate Heart of Kieran.
I guess, if that's the worst card in your deck's pretty good.
Yeah.
Again, you can splash black, you cannot, depending on what you want to do, but for me, I know we will be going over other decks. I can't see not playing this deck this weekend. I don't know about you. The card quality of this deck is so much higher than everything else, Ryan.
Yeah, it's absurd. What I typically find very endearing about red decks is you're scrapping together wins with some suboptimal cards. You gotta throw a shock upstairs, but this deck actually gets 3 of at least the best 5 cards in the format. Goblin Chainwheeler is probably number 1 right now. Hazoret's still certainly in the conversation. Chandra Torch of Defiance as well. You just get to play all the best cards, and also you have reach. You get to play the game, and you also don't have to because you just go upstairs with enough of your cards.
Yep.
Like calling it a Jund deck I think is totally reasonable. You get to go long, you also get to run people over, you force them to have a Fatal Push in their opener, and you force them to also have a Raskus Contempt on turn 4, and you need stuff on top of that too. This deck is absurdly good.
Yeah, for me, and I know we're going to watch a lot of Standard this week, and we'll be covering 4 rounds today, 4 rounds tomorrow. The top 8 is modern, thankfully, and I say that because I know people are going to want us to diversify the coverage and everything like that, but you got to remember, and you've played in so many of these, this is an invitational. Players are going to bring the best deck. I'm not Nick Miller. I'm not doing the breakdown, but I'm going to just 40%.
Yeah, actually, can I be real here?
Sure.
It's going to be 25% black-red mid-range.
Okay, sure.
Oh, no. Okay.
15% black-red aggro.
Sure.
And they're the exact same 75.
Now, what about Chainwhirler Control?
Yeah, what about that? What about Chainwhirler Control?
Okay, maybe.
That's a good deck.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
I would play that.
After Owen top 8 with, I think that might make it to 5 to 10%.
Some small percentage. We're going to see a lot of red here this weekend. There are other things in Standard, we swear. We're going to try to watch some of them. One of them, your old pal Brad, I think, is playing. I'm not positive, but he loves a blue-white control deck. He played blue-white control with Approach of the Second Sons of the Pro Tour. Had a great start. If you read his article on Star City Games, he was unhappy with some of the mistakes he made, but he could have been that blue-white control deck in top 8. Matthias, I'll start with you. Right. You love a control strategy. Teferi's really good.
Right.
The rest of the cards are okay.
Well, there aren't any other cards.
Okay,
that's why
sure.
That's great.
Sure.
No, actually, we talked about on power level what you can be doing in Standard right now. And I think Mono Red is certainly just card for card powerful, but actually, because of the card Teferi, I actually do think Blue Control is on the same power level as the red decks right now. Which is why when you see something like Blue White versus Mono Red, it's a pretty close matchup. Now, the hole in this strategy is that what you can do against this is that you can board in 4 Duresses out of, look at Standard right now. Basically, every deck is boarding in 4 Duresses. And that's because of Blue-White, and Blue-White's really good. So I do think this deck will see play. What I'm actually looking for this weekend is now that Red is pushing 50% of the metagame, I think we're going to see a lot of the Esper control deck, which is basically blue-black with some Teferis. I think you're going to see players really wanting to go toward those fatal pushes to address the metagame.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, Ryan, I'll come to you. So, blue control is an option. Teferi is a very, very powerful card, maybe the most powerful non-red card in the format. You can be Esper, you can be blue-black, you can be blue-white. What would your approach be this weekend?
Probably blue-black, at least. Most likely the Esper Splash. The thing about these decks, if you're not casting Teferi, if you're not casting the Scarab God, you're not closing. You're not doing anything that anybody cares about. You can disallow spells. You can keep pace for a while. The primary strength of these decks is actually that the cards that are good against the red deck are horrendous against your deck. People have to start their favorite fatal pushes. Some people have main deck Moment of Craving, and just this stuff that just doesn't do anything against your deck. But you still have to actually hit these haymakers. If you're not casting Teferi, you're not doing really anything of consequence. You're blanking their cards, but if your cards don't do anything, it doesn't matter. That's one of the reasons I would probably go Esper, is you get a higher volume of these 5-mana cards that actually close the game.
That's as someone, again, who's playing a ton of Invitationals, a lot of success behind us, as here in the booth. My question I'll ask you, if you were to play some sort of blue-white control strategy, some sort of blue-based control strategy, are you going creatureless? Are you playing Gearholics? How are you metagaming? Assuming you're not allowed to play red. Assuming you're not allowed to play red and you're playing blue, what's your approach for this tournament to try to get an edge on the field?
So I actually really liked Brad Nelson's deck from the Pro Tour. I was very impressed by the card Approach of the Second Sons. It's a card that even after sideboard, when the black-red decks are trying to hit you with duress, if you are able to resolve one, you can resolve the other one very quickly, and that 7-life booster is usually enough to buy you enough time to find it. The black-red decks transition a lot more towards these mid-range decks to try to play a long game. And Approach of the Second Son just closes the door immediately. You don't have to try to rely on Teferi to win you the game. You just play the 7-mana card that says, I win.
That's a strategy that Brad went towards. It's one that approaches a card that's oftentimes mocked. It looks kind of bad, but it might be the right thing to be going on this weekend for those decks. We'll see.
I think the game's overrated.
Sure. I know you don't like to do it. Yeah. I know you don't. You want to just loop your Teferis.
No, that part of the game where I have 12 lands in play, I don't want to go anywhere from that.
Well, there's a deck out there that wants to make sure you don't get to 4 lands. That's mono green. So they want to end the game about as fast as possible. Faster than the red decks, honestly. Mono green aggro with Steel Leaf Champion, Llanowar Elves, and a couple other green cards. Look, it's not the prettiest looking deck list, Ryan, I'll be honest. but it appears to be somewhat effective. Some people splash black for Scrappy Scroungers, others splashing blue for Spell Pierce and a couple other counter spells. Is this an option realistically this weekend?
The more red decks there are in the field, the more viable a deck like this becomes. I've been preparing for the unified standard RPTQ, which means I have to test some garbage decks because of 2-deck format. And green is largely the third seat for a lot of the teams, and part of the reason is you outsize the red decks in a very meaningful way. Steel Leaf Champion doesn't get cleanly answered by anything. It's going to take 2 cards or entering combat with a Goblin Chain Whirler plus something else. You force them to have some specific things in the matchup. And you also have tools against blue-white as well. Typically it's going to be in the sideboard, but you have access to Planeswalkers, Nissa Vital Force, stuff like that. And you also get the sideboard Lifecrafter's Bestiary, which gives you tools in all these matchups. I think it's a totally reasonable deck for a non-unified standard tournament. I probably wouldn't be playing it personally. I don't think it's much better than the red deck, but in that matchup, at least heads up, it's quite powerful.
Todd, I'll come to you. You have a history of playing Mono Green, Dungrove Elder, so on and so forth, things of that nature. This is obviously different. You're gunning for a very powerful Jund-esque strategy in mono red or red black, and of course we're talking about blue control decks as well. Is this something you could see yourself doing this weekend?
Absolutely not. I think this deck is just not quite good enough against the red decks, and it's horrendously bad against blue-white control. I watched a lot of coverage of the Pro Tour, and round after round that these green Galta decks were on camera, the card Galta got stuck in their hands more often than it was on the battlefield. This heavy density of removal is just an easy way to keep Galta stuck in your hand, and the black-red decks leaning more towards things like cut ribbons means that even the 5/4 Steel Leaf Champion is not going to be good enough.
That's true. Now, Matthias, dare I ask you if you would play a mono green aggro deck in a tournament?
I mean, I sometimes have attacked with green too. But if I'm going to play a rare card from Dominaria that has 3 colored mana symbols of the same color, it's not going to be forests.
Yeah.
This isn't a team unified tournament. I can't see why you'd want to play this when you could be playing Goblin Chain Whirlers. The deck's reasonably powerful. I think most players are going to go away from this. The one way I could see it being successful, Todd mentioned the control matchup. Blue-white control is very powerful against this. However, if we see players go toward blue-black control and Esper control, Mono Green actually has some pretty decent game against that. Their threats are really good against Fatal Push. I think that's the best case scenario for Mono Green, and if that's the best case, I wouldn't bank on it.
There are other decks, of course. There is Black-Green Constrictor, there is Black-Blue mid-range, and other options that players can play, but we'll be honest with you here in the booth. We're going to keep it real. There's a lot of mountains back there. There's a lot of mountains. That's the thing that we're going to watch a lot the first 4 rounds today, the first 4 rounds tomorrow. There's also the other half of the tournament, which of course is Modern, which we will get to in just a moment. But first, a couple messages from our sponsors. Welcome back to the pregame show of the StarCityGames.com Season 1 Invitational Weekend here at SCGCon. Cedric Phillips, Todd Anderson, Matthias Hunt, and Ryan Overturf. We are here. We've already talked about Standard a little bit, and by that I mean red, and more red. However, in Modern, things are a little bit different, and we prepare to talk about humans and a whole bunch more right now. So let's talk about Magic's most popular format, shall we? And of course is Modern, which we do a lot of here on the SCG Tour, and we will of course be doing here this weekend. 4 rounds today, 4 rounds tomorrow, and that'll be our top 8 too. There is one deck out there, my friends, that is, at least in my opinion, head and shoulders above the rest. We've had a lot of articles on Star City about it. I even took some time to write one myself, because I'm a big proponent of humans, and I know you are
very good.
I know.
You took the time out of your very busy schedule
to actually put words together.
Yeah.
To talk about Champion of the Parish and Noble Hierarch.
Been a minute.
What's that?
It's been a minute.
I know. I'm in love with this deck. This is my wheelhouse. This is all I want to do.
I mean, it's aggressive. It's disruptive. It's consistent. You know, you don't flood out that much because you have Horizon Canopy. You have really busted draws that feature Ether Vial. this is like a better iteration of what we want Merfolk to be.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. It really is. I mean, all the cards are, I mean, some of the cards are just busted. Manus Rider, Reflector Mage, Melee Mage plus Freebooter, Vial, like all the 1-drops are great.
Kitesail Freebooter, if you call that card busted one more time, I'm taking my headset off.
Well,
it's the worst card in the deck.
It's definitely the worst card in the deck.
But it's still pretty good.
It's still good. It's still good. If that's the worst card in your deck, much like you said with Heart of Kirin in red-black for Standard, you're doing pretty good.
Look, the 2-drops are just not very good.
That's true.
They cost 2 mana.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Matthias, this is actually a deck I could see you playing. I obviously put you in like the Scape Shift, but they all have text. They're all more than creatures. They all do a bunch of stuff, man.
I mean, I'm on the same line. This is the tier 1 deck in Modern. It might be the only tier 1 deck in Modern right now. I see so many people claim good matchups against humans, and then I watch them lose to humans.
Yep.
It's kind of like what I call like beats Jund syndrome. Remember when Bloodbraid Elf was background? You go to a tournament, and everyone would first tell you how their deck beat Jund, and then like the finals would be a Jund beer.
Yep.
Every single week. And I think humans is getting to that point.
I think we're just about there. I mean, it's dominating Magic Online. It's dominating real-life tournaments. It's won Grand Prix. I don't see people lose with the deck, really. I mean, even I can win with it, and I'm not even good anymore. Like, it's...
Oh, did you win that PTQ?
I did not. Why? Why?
Because you said it just,
Why?
It's a theoretical.
I'm still bitter about the 6-0.
Look, I did not bring up the Cavs. Just want to...
Did you lose to a cat deck?
Cavs.
Cavs.
And how we're losing.
Cavs.
All right, we're not
Ryan, just talk.
I hate this deck, man. I hate this deck a lot.
Yes.
Why? My ceiling for basic planes is 1. The deck only plays 1, so you kind of check that box, but like they're pushing pretty hard. I'm not trying to register Horizon Canopies for a tournament. I exclusively play decks that beat the crap out of humans.
Have you found one?
What are those?
What are those?
No, the problem is they're bad in the format. I can beat humans consistently, but I can't beat anything else with those decks. Bloodbraid Elf coming off the ban list was actually very good for humans, because the decks that like try to focus on beating humans, they just got a lot worse because you get 2 for 1 by the other nonsense in the format.
Yeah, there isn't really... Okay, so there is a deck that beats it. We'll get to it. I feel like
elves?
No, I actually think Mario Party Master's very good against humans. I think it's the only deck that can beat other things and is very good against humans. Marshall Arthur's went undefeated in Louisville with the deck. So like there is a deck that can do it. It's just a question if people want to play it. Now there's a deck that I feel players like Jonathan Ross and others feel like can do it, and that's Jeskai Control. I do not agree, personally. I think the Jeskai Control is a good deck. Rossum got second place in Minneapolis with the deck.
Yes, and he lost to humans.
He lost to humans in the finals.
Right.
So that kind of just says it all, right?
I just want to point one thing out. What was the humans player who
Sam
won? Sam Cottrella had never played humans before that tournament.
That's correct.
And he won.
That's correct.
I mean, Rossum mulliganed, like, I think 2 or 3 times in the match.
He also didn't kill a Noble Hierarch and got completely destroyed.
Yeah, his fundamentals could use some more.
You know
that's true.
His fundamentals could use some more.
Oh, you're not supposed to?
Rossum will tell you about, this is a...
Okay.
Look, he's really good. He's really good.
He's confident on this one.
He's very confident.
He's also 19 years old.
That's true. That's true.
You can't be that confident when I've been playing Magic longer than you've been alive.
That's true. That's true. Hey, he doesn't like to bolt it. Maybe he'll bolt it this weekend. I don't know. Matthias, as far as Jeskai Control decks are concerned, your thoughts on how on that deck and Jonathan DeRossum thoughts on the deck and how well positioned it is.
So what Jeskai has is it kind of passes the humans test. I'm not going to go say it beats humans, but it's like in the realm of things I'm allowed to play against humans.
Sure.
Okay, and there's other decks where a lot of decks are failing that. What I think is really nice for Jeskai right now is that humans getting so good that like the top 2 decks being humans and Hollow One, or like in metagame share, are just like really bad for Jund. Jund started up Bloodbraid Elf when it got unbanned, was really popular. It keeps dropping, and the more it drops, like I'm in for Jeskai. Jeskai got Teferi. So I think when it comes to the kill all the creatures decks, Jeskai's just at the top of the field, and that's a reasonable thing to be doing. I wouldn't mind registering the deck this weekend. I think humans is stronger, but this is something you can do.
You want to play Jeskai, Ryan?
No.
Right.
I don't want those white cards in my deck.
This again, right?
I think sometimes they play 2 basic planes, which is way too many. But the thing about Jeskai is you have a lot of very good cards. I'm pretty fond of Snapcaster Mage in the format. You can't go too wrong with Snap Bolt. I personally weigh the downside of Lightning Helix and Path to Exile higher than most players, your opponent getting a basic is kind of problematic for your deck, being able to ramp up their strategy. Lightning Helix costs 2 mana and actually doesn't answer a lot of the premier threats in the format, which is a pretty big problem for the deck. And you also have 0 nut draws. You never look at your hand, you're like, all right, I'm going to win this game. It's like, all right, I'm going to cast this Serum Visions, and I'm looking for my 3rd land. And everything's very speculative. The deck is good, not great. I think it's totally reasonable to play. It's not good enough for me to be there.
I think, Todd, I just have a feeling, you have an aura you're putting out right now. I don't think you like this deck at all.
Oh, no. I mean, any deck that plays 40% removal spells or whatever, I'm not really into. You need to be able to close the game in Modern. Things can go out of control. I don't know. I just have never really liked Jeskai in general when a lot of your game wins come on the back of Bolt, Snap, Bolt, the Dome.
Sure.
It's not really my cup of tea. I've never really liked the Celestial Colonnade plan. When they were playing Geist Saint Traft, however, sign me up.
All right, you're getting them dead.
That's my jam.
Okay.
I like the tempo game plans. I like playing a cheap spell in Modern and backing that up with the removal spells, and that allows you to close games quickly.
Sure.
And in Modern, with so many cards just being uber powerful, that's just definitely where you need to be. Right now, the Jeskai decks are a little mopey. They're kind of trying to play this longer game, and they don't have a lot of cards that can go super long. I do like the inclusion of Teferi in these decks, and I would love to see more Teferi on camera in those decks this weekend.
Remember when Jace got unbanned and that was, I guess Teferi's just better. I don't understand how Magic even works anymore. Teferi
I got a chance to see him in a Jeskai mirror go head-to-head. It's not even close.
Teferi just better.
Oh, wow. Costs less mana, removes the Jace immediately.
Yeah, can Jace bounce Teferi?
That's
no.
True. Yeah. Well, okay, I don't play blue. You guys win this round.
I don't know.
So we got humans, which of course is your best deck. Jeskai, which is trying to combat humans. And then there's a deck that kind of slides in the middle in Storm, which is bad against humans, but is good against Jeskai and other decks. So we had SCG Regionals last weekend during the week of the Pro Tour. Caleb Scheer and Paul Muller both won their Regionals with Storm. And these are guys who they can walk around with a hat that says, I'm playing Storm, and people still can't really beat them.
Wait, I thought they did.
Sometimes they do, probably. I don't know. But, you have Gifts Ungiven. Of course, you have Electromancer and Brawl and Grape Shot and some flexibility in the sideboard, pieces of the puzzle. Sometimes they play Empty the Warrens and Blood Moon. Sometimes they don't. Ryan, I know you like blue-red decks. I don't know if you like Storm. There are no basic planes. We're off to at least a decent start.
Yeah, this is a deck I've played online. I can't bring myself to register it for a physical tournament. When you're going off and your tournament takes 10 turns, there's a human being looking at you. That's a very uncomfortable situation for me.
Okay.
I'm not super into that. The deck is quite good, and it has adapted in ways where it can combat humans in pretty meaningful ways. You main deck Lightning Bolt, some number, I think usually 1 or 2 these days. A repeal and unsubstantiate, so you can win game ones through a meddling mage, which previously was not true. So the deck has adapted in that way. And when it comes to beating humans, I play games. I can point out if I didn't draw, my 5th land, if I drew another removal spell, I could have won those games. With Storm, sometimes I think I have a good matchup, and I play it a number of times, and I'm just not even sure if I was right.
Sure.
Because it's very adaptable post-sideboard. The pieces of the puzzle plan's very good. You have to interact on multiple levels. They have good graveyard stocks. They can empty the Warrens you. The deck's combating the metagame on a lot of meaningful axes. And so I think it's a really good choice for that reason. It's very adaptable, and it's still very powerful.
Now, when I think of combo, Todd, I don't really think of you. Not an insult, it's just true. I don't see you play a lot of combo decks.
My combo decks usually involve the card Bristlebrand.
That's true, which this deck doesn't have. There's no sneak attacks or show and tells here, or Goryo's Vengeance. So this is a kind of a different combo deck, obviously, and it is good. And if people aren't hating on it, it's absurd. However, the best deck in the format, which we all agree as humans, has a lot of hate for it. So I know, spoiler alert, Caleb and Paul are going to play the deck, so I didn't leak your deck, guys. But if they don't play it, they got everybody. But can you play this deck this weekend and be confident? When you have to imagine humans are going to be the most played deck?
If you're Caleb Scheer or Paul Muller, I think you can absolutely play this deck and be confident. You're both coming off a fresh win at SCG Regionals.
Yep.
They've both been playing the deck for ever.
Literal ever.
At least a year, probably since Caleb Scheer was a baby. He had a Grape Shot in his hand, just carrying around.
Casted the card. That's literally, outside of his Invitational win with Affinity, which is weird to me now because it wasn't Storm, that's the only time I've ever seen him play non-Storm.
So, but Storm is just one of those decks that can beat anything. It
Yep.
takes an astounding amount of disruption and a clock to be able to beat them. You have to hit them on the hand, you have to be able to kill their creature, and you have to be able to interact with their graveyard. And if you're able to do all three of those things, then I think you have a shot against Storm. But it's comical to me that you can play Baral, Chief of Compliance in this format, and Stoneforge Mystic is banned.
Sure.
If you untap with a Stoneforge Mystic, the worst thing that's going to happen is there's a Batter Skull in play the next turn. If you untap with a Baral, Chief of Compliance, you win the game. It's
true.
over.
That's true.
I have never beaten them when they untapped with a mana creature, ever.
That's legit.
Ever.
That's an interesting argument. I never thought about that, actually, where if you do untap with Brawl or Electromancer, if you get out of that turn, if you get out of turn 3, their draw is bad or something. Like, you got lucky.
Yeah.
To get out of
oh,
turn
no, they're
3.
casting Gifts Ungiven for 3 mana.
And then you're definitely dead. And then you're definitely
Yeah.
dead. And besides, you do play combo. Normally it's with a lot of Valakuts. I don't know if this is kind of your area, but
I haven't played that much with the Storm. I think Storm's fine right now. It's still powerful enough that it's so great to take it to a tournament. The biggest risk right now is that Humans is so good, and that's not a great matchup. Then again, I think I've talked to Paul Muller, and he said he's won 7 matches in a row against Humans, so who knows how life works.
He was very confident when I played against him in the team open, and I kite-sailed the right card, meddling mage the right card, and won by like 1 mana. And at the end of the match, he was just like, "Oh man, if you hadn't done this," I'm like, "I know."
Yeah.
That's how my deck works.
That's
It's
why I
winning by
did that
inches.
thing.
That's why I did it.
it is.
And that's why you're setting the
Humans
slip.
does beat Storm, it feels like, by inches. Because
every time.
But it's not like Humans destroys them. They win, they have a lot of disruptive cards, but it's only by inches, Matthias.
Yeah, so I think where I'm at with Storm is that players, I think, are playing right now because they're forgetting about it a bit, and because the decks that are beating Storm are doing it by inches, all it takes is a little bit of metagame shift, and Storm breaks through, and I could see one of them doing that this weekend.
All right, quick question, then we're going to group up some Modern decks and we'll make our pick'ems for the 3 of you. Ryan, I'm going to start with you. You're playing against Storm. You're playing against Caleb. You know this. You're playing Humans. You haven't seen his hand. Turn 2 Meddling Mage. What do you name?
You probably just always start with Grape Shot, right? And the second one names some answer to your first Meddling Mage.
Matthias?
Oh man, I'm playing Humans. What happened?
Hello,
These guys-
darkness, my old friend.
I really hope I freebooted him first, because then I
You
can make
didn't.
it easy.
You have to pick a card.
Yeah, in the dark.
In the dark, turn 2 Meddling Mage against Caleb. What do you name?
I'm going to get this one wrong. We'll go with
There's
Gifts
no wrong
Ungiven.
answers.
Todd?
I don't know, man. Why are you asking me this question?
Because that's why we paid you to be up here. There. There. That's why.
So in the past, it has been just Grape Shot because they didn't have Unsubstantiate, they didn't have Lightning Bolt, they were really focused on combo. With them shifting their deck in this way, I think I lean a little more towards Gifts Ungiven.
Okay.
But I would be fine just naming Baral or Goblin Electromancer and just flipping a coin.
They're going to have the one you didn't name. If
Right.
For sure. For
Right.
sure.
So,
that's
you can't name Pyretic Rituals and they have Desperate Rituals. Like, you know, it's Modern. Every card is the same.
Yeah, well, I asked that question because I always get it wrong.
I've named
and I
Grape
don't-
Shot every time and not really thought about it. I'm just like, cross my fingers, hope you don't draw. You get something given for Noxious Revival, Lightning Bolt. They're in the graveyard. Put them in the graveyard.
Sure.
You can have the other two.
Sure.
I mean, it's a decision where there's a right answer, and you're going to feel bad if you don't find the right answer. But there's no right answer.
Yep.
You name a card in their deck, and you hope that it's good.
Fair enough. And the first week when Collins won, it was Grape Shot, and then everyone conceded.
Yeah.
Now it's not. Obviously, Storm players have adapted their deck. I don't know if it's just default Gifts Ungiven. I don't know. That's why I asked. I didn't know if any of you guys had some other insight, which
Passive Flames is also a fine.
apparently I did not.
I feel like as
Additional
long as actually
insights.
the rest of my hand is going to matter here.
Okay.
Like,
You
can
which combo lines can't I beat, and I should mage those ones.
All right, let's group some decks together really quick, then we're going to make some pick'ems. Let me check this here. Okay, so we got about 4 minutes to work with. There's Affinity. There's Mardu Pyromancer, which is the deck, by the way, that I think if you want to beat Humans and just kind of other things, that's what you play.
Affinity, I agree.
No, I think it's Mardu. I think Mardu's good.
Dude, Affinity just smushes Humans.
I don't agree with you.
Well,
That's
you're
like
a fool.
another one of
Look,
those
maybe
decks-
you draw your Katakis, but I never draw
I
my
do,
Katakis.
and my Static
and
Casters and everything else, and my Reflector Mages.
Yeah, I have all those cards in my deck too.
You need to mulligan more
My opponents
aggressively.
just go turn 2 as champion, turn 3 cranial plating, and I die.
You never Phantasmal Image it?
No.
They can Ravager that to death.
I know how the cards work.
It's
literally my job to know how the cards
You
work.
can do that thing, but you don't win the game because you did that
Gives
thing.
you a fighting chance. Gives you
Sure.
a fighting chance. There's Affinity. There's There's Mardu. There's the slipperiest of Boggles.
Oh, good.
Of course.
Also beats humans.
I have never lifetime won a match against
I think
Bog.
it's kind of close. I think it's kind of
That
close.
deck's unbeatable.
Depends if you're the player. If you're on the draw,
I
I
have
think you
never
lose.
beaten a turn 1 slippery Boggle. Just never, no matter what deck
No matter
I'm
what you're playing.
it doesn't happen.
I think,
Okay.
yeah, lifetime with any deck, I'd never won a match against Bog.
All right, well,
Just, it's the best deck of Modern.
that
I don't
is
even know.
that's so not. Get that Boggle off the screen. That is so not true. All right, we're gonna make our predictions here. What we're gonna do? We've all decided who we're gonna pick. There's a graphic. It's really nice that we're gonna bring up, and I'm gonna say what decks I would play here this weekend too. We'll go down the line. All right, so standard mono red. Obviously.
No, Duress is in the board or no?
I just want to play White Darby's deck.
Okay.
Just straight up mono red is what I want to play. He wrote an article for Star City. It's probably up. It's up in 27 minutes. Read it. Buy a subscription and read it so I can keep my job. I would play humans because duh. And I am picking. What's Owen's nickname recently?
O-Rat.
Is he O-Rat now? I used to call him X and Owen. The O-Rat, third place at Pro Tour Dominaria. Give me Star City Games' newest employee. Great article that went up yesterday. And he's really, really good at Magic.
Yes,
Like,
very, very.
really good. So I'm going to pick the O-Rat.
Owen, I got a chance to talk to him last night. He's on Hollow One for Modern.
Yeah? It's
Yeah.
an interesting choice. Interesting choice. We'll see how it goes. We'll see
bad
how it goes.
choice.
Maybe he changed his mind this morning. Who knows? You.
So decks I would play for standard, I think picking Owen's deck list card for card is the way to go. He was 802.
That's just in life?
I mean, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty safe.
It's a safe bet. He went 802 in the constructed portion of the Pro Tour, won the quarterfinals. I think he lost to Darby, I think.
Yeah, I got knocked out by White Darby.
in the sense.
Yeah, he lost to Darby in the top 4, but I think that the mono red deck kind of sits on top of the black red deck just slightly, but it's worse than the black red deck against the rest of the field.
Okay.
As for modern, obviously picking humans, there's like 4 flex slots out of the 75 that I kind of fool around with, but my deck has been the same for the last 3 months.
Yep.
Person I would pick to win, Brad Nelson. Love Brad. I'm just, he's probably not going to win, but I want him to, so I'm picking him.
There you go. Matthias, we come to you.
All right. Deck lists. In standard, I'm going to play the dirtiest of blue-white decks.
You look so excited about it.
I don't even like the Gideon in the list. I think a couple Ifmu Rivulets should be just fine, and I'll just hang out, and I'll 1-0 some people. And
That's your thing.
no, it's going to be great.
Okay.
Get my money's worth. I'm also going to... I want to do that in every format, and I really, in Modern, enjoy Lantern right now. And I feel like I'd try to play that, but it's not... Okay.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible. Okay, so what would happen is I would try to do that, and then my car would talk me into playing a real deck, and I'd probably play Affinity this weekend.
Okay. Those are good
Because
card
I'd
mates.
have the opals with me, and I'd be like,
Sure,
all right, yeah, I
sure.
should play
I
the
do
real
think
Mox
Lantern
Opal
is
deck.
very good against things like humans and Hollow One.
Right, that's
There's
why
a
I'd wanna
reason
play
why
it.
it won the Pro Tour, a few months back. The format was very heavy on humans and Hollow One and these decks that were trying to be linear and had very few answers to the card ensnaring bridge.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not the worst choice.
And also just the idea of playing...
Visceral reaction.
Yeah.
Playing no Wincon Blue-White into Lantern just means like all I'm doing would be playing Magic all
Yeah, do you
day.
just not want to ever eat, or
I mean, this just sounds like a great weekend.
your winner?
The player. So with humans being as good as it is,
Are you Eeyore?
with humans being as good as it is right now, I think I want to pick a player who has got a lot of experience against the humans deck, and I'm going to go with Ben Nikolic. He's been really strong in the SCG Tour this weekend, and I've seen him crush humans a handful of times on camera.
Rhino?
Favorite to win the tournament is a configuration of mono red and humans piloted by any human being with a pulse.
Okay.
My pick for the tournament, however, is Harlan Fear,
A human being with a pulse.
but he's not playing humans. He has red deck in
no.
standard,
Oh, this
and
is-
in modern, we're playing a deck that I invented. He adapted, blue-red wizards. He top 4'd regionals.
You
The deck
cannot-
is real.
Stop.
Shut up. Shut up. Don't at me. Don't talk to me. Deck's awesome.
Don't at me?
Don't at me.
What am I supposed to do? I'm up in the booth with you.
Just be quiet for a minute.
Okay. All right.
What's Nick got? Did Nick pick Rossum, I think? Yeah, he picked
Yeah.
the youngster. Jonathan, from all of us here in the booth, just kill the Noble Hierarch, man. Just kill it.
Wizards can do that.
Card disadvantage.
It's
He'll tell
going
you
to
that.
kill you. And it keeps doing
You gotta
that.
save it for the real
Just
card.
kill it.
You know,
Please.
I feel like the 7th time it happens, shame on you.
Yeah.
The
I
seventh.
really like John. And when I was watching the finals in Minneapolis,
Noble me 6 times. Shame on me.
yep, that's a
Noble me
common.
the 7th time.
Put a hashtag on that. That's a common saying. When I was watching the finals in Minneapolis, Sam played Noble Hierarch, and I was just thinking to myself, I didn't say it out loud. I'm like, he's not going to kill that. He's not going to kill it. And then he didn't, and then he lost. Just kill it. Just kill it. With that, everyone, we're going to take a short break. We're going to get everything set up to begin round number 1 of coverage. Todd Anderson and I will bring you rounds 1 and 2. Matthias Sutton will bring you rounds 3 and 4. We'll alternate every 2 rounds. Today, we got 4 rounds of standard and 4 rounds of modern. Tomorrow, we'll do the same thing. We'll cut the top 8, who's going to play Sunday, and then we're going to cover some vintage. Top 8 on Saturday, where we're going to probably embarrass ourselves because our vintage knowledge is lacking, though you've played some on the Versus Series, so you probably know a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Someone asked me a vintage question last night.
Okay.
I answered, and Nick Miller said, "You're right."
How'd that feel? That feels
And
good?
Nick Miller plays in a vintage league, so I'm just going to assume that I'm going to do great.
Perfect. We're going to see some players cast Black Lotus and Moxen, maybe some Paradoxical Outcomes. That should be awesome. That'll be Saturday. Sunday, we're going to work ourselves through the quarters, semis, and finals of the Invitational. Going to crown a champion here. And then we're going to cover...
Yeah, I mean...
No banless modern, where I seriously hope everyone dies on turn 2 or turn 3 so much, because the commentary is just going to be like, that's why that's banned. Right. Got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
nice.
If the top 8 is not 4 Hypergenesis decks and 4 Chalice of the Void decks, I quit.
My thesis is there will be no Hypergenesis decks in the top 8.
Well, that's because no one has the cards in it.
It's
and
like
you
4
can
cents.
Only, you can only, the card Hypergenesis, sure, 4 cents. Everything else, you got to buy Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, Gristlebrand's, I don't know, 17 other gigantic idiots that only go in this deck, and you can't play them in anything except Elder Dragon Highlander.
Do you guys know, and we're going to say this all at once before we go, do you guys know where you can buy all of those cards for Hypergenesis?
StarCityGames.com.
Net.
We will see you guys back here for round 1 just a bit.